the day that we closed was different than the day that the money ended up like coming into my co-founder and I's account. But yeah, seeing like a wire transfer like that was definitely like, holy shit. I like screenshotted it and sent it to my mom. And I'm like, I don't mean to be a douchebag, but this is fucking crazy. And she was like, whoa, that is pretty weird.
All right, folks, we have a real heater for you today. Somehow, some way, we snagged Dennis Hegstad for episode 17. Dennis is a purveyor of many things, including Shopify apps, his new VC fund, and his amazing dog, as well as an incredible 90s throwback vehicle. So, Dennis, welcome to the show. Yeah, absolutely. And so this is actually unique because we're both in Austin this time. Usually I'll have some little banter between where you're at and where I'm at, because we're actually just downtown in the studios. And I used to actually live in Dennis's current neighborhood, beautiful home. So I know you're already in Austin, but fabulous anywho. You weren't always in Austin though, right?
No, I left Austin in 2010 to Los Angeles, and then spent pretty much 9 or 10 years there, and then came back home.
I like it. What brought you back?
My family's here. My business partner and my previous company, Live Recover, he moved here with his partner, and so it just kind of seemed like after growing up, I guess 21 to 30 years old, like I guess my priorities changed, and I wanted to double down on sort of like family and work.
I love that.
That was all here.
Yeah. I love that. That's amazing. So you're around what, 33 years old is kind of what my stalking put you at. So in that area, and how did you get into entrepreneurship? You have such like a track record for like a 50-year-old. When did you start hustling? What did that look like? I mean, it's pretty impressive what you've been able to accomplish in such a short amount of time.
Well, I hope. Yeah, well, that sounds really nice, but I think it's been a not so glamorous journey, but definitely fun. I started playing computer games super early when I was like maybe 8, 9 years old, and then got into like competitive Counter-Strike in junior high school maybe. And we had a game server company where we set up the servers, and then we were like, our team, we were really good. And so we had a team that was sponsored by our own company to kind of like fake it till you make it. And then people were like, what, you're sponsored? You guys are super good. What's this company? And then we started selling our servers to other gaming clans and built a relatively big business in high school. I mean, I was just working there and on the gaming clan too. But fast forward, into high school, MySpace, I got into e-commerce then, which was like 2007 to 2009, I guess. And then after that, I was, kind of building meme accounts in 2010 to 2015. Had 10 million followers, I guess, on Twitter, 11 million followers on Twitter. Not for my personal, but like different accounts that were meme pages categorized as like cool houses, cars, like tweets about sex, tweets about girls, random meme tweets, movie related pages, just whatever. We had it. Or I had it. And then eventually ended up selling those pages off and getting kind of back into e-commerce. But yeah, so I don't know. I guess I would just say started all just like figuring shit out on my own. But
I love that. How interesting. What gave you the idea or I guess what made you see the arbitrage in kind of starting these little meme properties? And then like, how did you see that? Or was that just like a fuck it, let's try this out, and then it just kind of hit? Or
it was more like I was kind of, this is like dumb to say out loud, but I was like kind of popular on MySpace, and the only way I had sales for my first e-com brand was because I was sort of like a puppet to myself. Like I had to go to all these, I wanted to, but if I wasn't going to like concerts and Warped Tour and giving these guys and bands and girls and bands like different merch, like then my brand wasn't doing well because I wasn't spending money on ads. I was relying on like kind of having a brand. I didn't really understand paid traffic yet. And then after I realized like, oh, MySpace is dying, time to go to Twitter, I started building multiple pages for myself. So I had like my own Dennis account, and then I had like 4 extras that I just like automated bots that were following and unfollowing people. Just in case mine got deleted, I would have extra ones. And then I eventually just realized like, fuck having extra ones. I'm going to change those into the account names of like movies and stuff, because Ashton Kutcher raced Britney Spears and CNN to the first 1 million followers on Twitter in 2009. And so I changed my backup accounts to meme accounts like the movie Ted when Ted came out and like something else. And I'm like, why would I don't want to have like 4 accounts about me. I'd rather just have 4 accounts about random stuff where I don't have to like really be attached to them. And then after that, I realized like, I spent maybe a year on that without making $1. Eventually found this website called My Likes, which was run by some people at Google who started like Google AdSense and like all these crazy products. And they were offering like 50 cents to 30 cents a click for sharing links to Twitter. And I'm like, oh, I have, 4 accounts with like 30, 40, 50,000 followers each. And I would share links and make like $40 every time on each account. So I'm like, oh, whoa, I can make like $100 a day. And then I just doubled down on that. And then I just started chasing trends and buying accounts and buying retweets. And I'd post a link and buy retweets from like celebrities.
That's
and then
amazing.
Yeah, found a way to kind of make like, a couple $100 a day. And they were paying out weekly. So it was, turned into something that became kind of like a full-time thing.
That is I've never heard that before. That's incredible. So from Counter-Strike to Meme Master to then you're starting to level up into your companies, right? So you had your Exposely and then Live Recovers kind of about this time, right?
Yeah, so Exposely was the way to monetize my meme pages without relying on My Likes, but also to tap into all my friends' pages. So instead of going to like AOL and saying, hey, I want 5 cents a click or 10 cents a click for all the AOL websites, I can't only sell so many clicks a day with my 10 million or whatever followers, but I have 15 friends and we all have 10 million. I can say, hey, we have 200 million followers on Twitter. We can drive this much, right? And so I would call it 10 cents a click from AOL and I'd pay my friends 7 cents a click. And I'd make 3 cents on every click, but then I'd also drive my own clicks too, where I'd make full margin. But I basically built my own network for my pages and I let other people tap in and I took a fee. But after that, essentially moved on from that, got into e-commerce again, sort of less meme pages, back to e-commerce. But I've been doing a lot of paid traffic and meme pages and all this stuff. And so I figured like I could probably really do well with e-commerce. Did some of that, my own drop shipping sites, but kind of like instead of drop shipping, I would actually import inventory from say China. I would get my own products produced and white labeled. I wasn't just shipping from China. But after doing that for a while and kind of chasing the trends of like kind of like the fidget spinners to the black charcoal mask to the this to the that, I started realizing like I think that there's like more opportunity in some of these apps. I talked to my co-founder of Live Recover before we were co-founders, I guess, of that business and showed him some stuff, right? And then he came back to me, was like, hey, I think we should do a text message app with like live humans, right? It wasn't my idea. It was actually my co-founder's idea. So to be fair, Live Recover was not my idea. It was his.
That's so fascinating. And so I was actually reading when I was doing research for the podcast, he built it while he was on vacation. Was that correct? The MVP? He just cranked, you kind of brain dumped on him and he basically just cranked out an MVP for you in a couple weeks on his vacation?
Pretty much. Yeah. I mean, he knew what to build, right? He was an engineer and he knew from some feedback, we had talked about it, done definitely like a lot of research, and he did e-commerce as well. I had done e-commerce. So we knew how did we service ourselves, right? And like, what would we want? And there was also SMS Bump and Attentive already in the market. And so it wasn't like I really needed to tell him much of what to do. He was like, give me 2-3 weeks and I'll have something that we can start onboarding customers, for by the time I'm like done. So he went on vacation, I think to like Italy and somewhere else. And then he came back, had a couple of days of like, uploading everything, getting everything ready in a public environment on the web, and then was like, hey, do you have customers? I'm like, yeah, I got like 25 brands ready to go. He's like, oh shit, sweet. And then it was kind of like from day one we were just able to I relied on him a lot, obviously, so because I'm not an engineer, even though I know a little bit. I know enough, but not enough to be spending my time writing code.
Yeah, I love that. The other thing I found so fascinating was you guys essentially, not burn the ships. It sounded like you were, in a decent financial place. But from my research, you guys didn't take a nut till 8 months or so after you started the business, where that's a pretty long time for most people, right? To not pull anything out of the business. How did you construct that? Was that on purpose? Where was your head at there where it kind of like, can you color in the lines there?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think next time, like if we work on something else in the future, that's probably not going to be the way it goes. But I think at the time we were very adamant on building a business that was self-sustaining, even if it meant like not making any money for ourselves personally for however long. Because we were reinvesting a lot of the money into ads. And when I say a lot of money, when you're only making like 3 or 4 grand a month in revenue for your whole business when you launch, right? Like you put $1,000 a month into ads, 2K, right? Half your revenue. The other half are costs, right? And we did every text, because we're a human powered text message, app. We did every text ourselves for the first 8 months too. So like if we weren't responding to the text on behalf of our merchants, we were not making money. And we did that on Black Friday, Thanksgiving morning, Christmas morning, New Year's Eve, New Year's Day. Like I was on my computer, and so was my co-founder, doing every text for every brand.
That's cool.
For the first 6 to 8 months, we finally hired our first texting agent after the first like 6 to 8 months, and we were like, why the hell did we take that long? When we had talent in overseas, and the salaries were enough that we could have justified paying for it earlier, but we were trying to be like, no, we should wait because we're not even paying ourselves yet. We should, obviously we should pay someone else first before us, but we waited a little too long. And when you really have a realistic salary, right? Like,
sure,
I haven't worked personally for like less than 100K a year in a while, sure. And so granted, when we started paying ourselves, it was like 2K a month each. So if a company, say, wanted to look at your financials, they're like, oh, well, is this company profitable? And you're like, yeah, it's profitable. They're like, well, not really. You guys are only taking a salary of 25K a year. So if you were paid a real salary, this company would be in the hole. So we had to like actually zoom out and look at like, damn, what are we like? We could have even waited longer. It was the point on the salary, because it really didn't make a difference. But we try to like kind of introduce a salary at a low amount just to get the company on a position where we have to be expecting some like real expenses. Not that like 2K a month was real, but to the proportion of the revenue of the business, it was like maybe we were doing 20K a month or something then, and we were like, oh, we should at least pay ourselves like a little bit, just so the company's getting used to that sort of, I don't know, capital expenses. Not like we wait another 2 months. Yeah. So then we did all that properly and paid ourselves as like employees and did it all, in a way that made sense.
Cool. That's so fascinating to me. And so at what point, or I guess, where was your headspace at? Was it always in terms of like an exit acquisition, or were you building like this juggernaut to hold on to for life, and then somebody just hit you with the number that you couldn't refuse? Or like, where was your head at when you're building this company?
We didn't have any intention of like building it to sell it. I think like most people might think that's like the goal. I mean, maybe that's a dream of some kind, like, wow, that's an amazing outcome if that ever happens. But we had some interest really early on, which was kind of cool. Like, I think in our beta phase, we were like 6 months old, and someone offered to acquire us for like couple $100,000, and we're like, right. No, we're like, no, come on. We have a lot more work to do. We didn't even feel like we had earned whatever that was, right? We're like $400,000, like, no. And so we waited like, another year, and then someone else tried to offer $1 million for something. And we're like, no, like, we think that, we have more work to do. And we felt like we were still pretty early, because a lot of companies are like, what? SMS marketing? It's like 2019 or mid 2019. We launched mid 2018. But so like, eventually, it started getting to a point where we were making some serious money, and when it was just my co-founder and I and our team of texting agents and one other engineer. So realistically, like, we were never bigger than 10 people. Three core, myself, a co-founder, and another engineer, and then texting agents. But at a certain point, when there's a lot of competition around you that are all raising venture capital, and they're being valued at ridiculous amounts of revenue multiples, call it 40, 50, 60x, and you're bootstrapped and you're like not that far behind in terms of revenue, people are like, they look at you as like a very attractive value buy. And so there was at a certain point where we're just like, whoa, we didn't list our company for sale. It wasn't for sale. We were building our business. But when people are knocking on your door and, giving you offers that make a lot of sense, sometimes you might listen. And then, for us, we found some people that we thought were great partners, and we ended up selling the business to them.
How cool. Well, that is definitely an entrepreneurial wet dream where you're just kind of working and then all of a sudden this money suitcase is kind of at your door and you're like, huh, I wonder what we do here. Without revealing too much, what is that process like? So somebody started courting you guys kind of start to like open the kimono a bit, you show them some internal numbers, and then the negotiations start from there? Or like how does that, for people that have never been involved in an acquisition or anything like that, what are the machinations behind that?
I mean, to be honest, this was my first time doing something like I would call like a big acquisition. The one I sold my meme network for like a 150K or something, and that was felt amazing, right? But this was, a life-changing amount of money, and so it was. We had already gone through a process with someone else who had given us a deal that we thought was very fair, but they took a lot longer than they had sort of proposed, and after call it 3 months, we're like, this is taking way too long. We had done all of what we had felt was our side of diligence, and then that ended up not working out. And so we had all of our financials and everything in a row. Everything was ready to go, right? And then we're like, okay, we don't have time to be selling our business. We need to be working. Right? We have too much that we could be doing right now. And so we got back to work, and then maybe 60 days later, 90 days or less, someone else came by, and then all of a sudden it was like 3 people had come to us inbound saying, hey, like, we'd be interested in potentially talking about acquisition or whatever. And we had a baseline number from the company that had already tried to offer us and had kind of went through this process with us. And so we just said, hey, we've grown by like a good amount since then. And not that we think like we can charge, necessarily double or whatever amount, but we need more than what the previous, situation was. And, pretty much all the parties we talked to agreed, but 1 or 2 of them were willing to move forward faster and just like kind of basically we explained like we don't want to be stuck selling a business, like trying again, right? Because then you might be stuck selling a business for 6 months out of the year and you're like, no, I got to work. It's hard to do both, especially when your company is just 3 people. And so, we found a good party and there wasn't really much negotiation. It was kind of like we were all on the same page. We met each other in person, went on some trip, kind of like not like parties, but like a work trips, and talked about the future of the business and made sure everything was kind of in line, and discussed like vision and where we are at in the market, and just kind of, make sure kind of a character check. We like each other, we know each other, do we feel like we could be there for each other? And just kind of went through that motion, and it ended up not taking that long, like less than half the time of the other situation or more, and just worked out pretty well.
How surreal was that for you? Like, was there any moments that you kind of had like that out of body experience, like in the last negotiations when the big number is going to close, and the wire is going to hit the next day or something like that? Did you ever have kind of like a holy fuck moment, or was this all just kind of like, you'd been hustling towards it, and there was just, eventually as you do good work and you create value in the world, a lot of times you get rewarded for that. What was that kind of headspace like when you were like closing that deal for the first time? Because it sounds like it was significant money, and so that had to be a lot of ramifications going through your head, right?
It definitely was like, I didn't know, there's always something that could change or happen last minute. Maybe like the other thing, we were kind of emotionally invested, like this is going to work out. We're stoked. And then after a while, we're like, we understood it wasn't, because, we have an advisor who goes, one deal is no deal. Basically, if only one person is trying to buy your company, you don't have a deal. Like you're going to have multiple people trying to buy your business at once if you have a real exit opportunity. And that ended up being true. So he was right. But, like the day that we closed was different than the day that the money ended up like coming into my co-founder and I's account. But seeing like a wire transfer like that was definitely like, holy shit. I like screenshotted it and sent it to my mom, and I'm like, I don't mean to be a douchebag, but this is fucking crazy. And she was like, whoa, that is pretty weird. And so I was like, okay, I think I also feel like I need to move a lot of this out of my bank account now, just because I'm like, what the fuck, this doesn't seem safe. And then that was cool. Had a little bit of an identity crisis after. I'm like, what do I do now? This is like, I don't know.
Interesting. Yeah.
Now what? It's like, now what? Who am I? This is it. Like, it's not like, enough to, it's like maybe enough to live like a very like capital conscious life. But like the lifestyle I want to live is like, I'm still young and I don't have a family yet. So I want to still go a little harder and try to do more. Yeah. So it sets me up to do more and invest more. And like, I bought another app since selling live
Yeah, I saw
recovery,
that.
which
Yeah.
but
Order
like
book, right?
it's not, yeah, but it's, you know, in my head I'm like, oh wow, I built this idea up since I was like maybe a teenager, maybe selling a company for tons of money, and you're just gonna go lay on a beach and do nothing or something. And then it's like within like weeks I'm like, I need to get back to doing something. Like I'm bored as fuck. And that's what it was. It was like it kind of felt liberating in a way, but also like that's it. Like I don't know.
It's a new game, a new mountain kind of,
I
right?
bought a new
It's
truck, and I bought like an expensive watch, and then like I bought my mom a watch and gave
I
her
was
some
just gonna
money.
say your mom, yeah, you got her a sweet timepiece.
I took care of my mom a bit, and like paid down more of my house just because interest rates are so low that there's no reason to pay it all off. But yeah, just like normal stuff. I'm like, oh yeah, all right, cool.
How
Let's get back to it.
That's so fascinating. So through all this, so I don't know if I knew you really intimately before the identity crisis, but I've been a long time listener, first time caller, and you seem like one of the happiest, most productive kind of guys. I'm seeing your Strava tweets, like all this stuff. How do you kind of keep things, like, do you use any frameworks? Do you have routines? Like, how do you stay so happy, successful, productive? Like, is it just in your bones, or like, do you have kind of systems that shapes your environment to allow for the path of least resistance to be the most productive path?
I don't think I have a lot of frameworks necessarily. I try to follow people who do because I strive to be more like them. but but I'm not. I think like at least for me, I've just always kind of done my thing and been fortunate that it's sort of been working out. And I haven't really relied on a lot of other people for my own success. But that's not to say that I don't want to like work with more people and like have more people around me. But at least moving from even LA to Austin, before it was just so much noise and nonsense and comparison to other people and trying to I find myself like going like shopping for designer stuff just because I'm like, just for what? To prove that I have the money to do it? I don't even want all this shit. And then I move here and I'm like walking, you know, I'm wearing like socks and fucking flip flops and just looking a mess, and I don't give a shit what I, you know, it's just like a different mindset of being here. And like, even though what I'm doing now is like significantly more than, and then have more stuff and money or whatever than like when I was in LA. But here I don't care at all to spend that money on comparison or keeping up with other people and comparing to other people. So I think like for me, like waking up pretty early, it doesn't matter when I go to bed. I get up at like 6:30. I try to run or do cardio every day, but like mainly running just because I like running specifically, and I think that Austin's beautiful and I get leisure out of it.
Yep. You're doing the half marathon too, yeah?
Yeah, I'm doing a half marathon with my girlfriend this Sunday. From the Domain to Downtown is the name of it, sponsored by 3M.
It looks like a really cool course.
Yeah, it's like right on the frontage road the whole way. But yeah, so, you know, I think that also just like I've been not having an employer / someone who can kind of restrict the way that I call it, I don't want to say act, but the way that I am. Maybe that's on Twitter or in person or in groups or whatever. Like, I don't have anybody who really is able to check me. And while that might be reckless to some degree, I can just do what I want. And that's a somehow like hard to be upset with myself or anything if I have full luxury over all those things. Whereas like maybe if you work at a company and you feel like saying something to someone, you have to hold back because you're like, oh, I don't want to get fired because I don't have a, you know, and that's normal. But like, and at the end of the day, if I want to do that, I'm only hurting myself and my business and my apps. So at the end of the day, like if I want to take on that irresponsibility or responsibility by acting a fool or shit posting or being myself or whatever that means, then I'm going to do it. And I think that for me, at least, that's so far been okay. I don't think that's a great framework for anybody or for most people, but you know, generally I try to be nice and help people, and then sometimes I act a fool, and you know, you got to be able to handle both of those.
Yeah, totally. I think that's the human experience, but on all accounts, I think you're definitely above average in terms of joviality, and I've always seen you kind of put out a helping hand to pay it forward. So I think you're doing an incredible place there. Do you do any kind of meditations? Are you spiritual, religious, any of that stuff, or you just kind of, you know where you're at and you're centered and you've kind of moved on to what you want to be?
I think meditation is great, and I wish that I was like more disciplined with my time and like made it part of my schedule, because I at one point I really was, after some like bad, not I would say bad stuff, but I had some like problems with Xanax in the past when I was like 25 or 24, and like meditation really helped me then a lot after kind of getting through all that. But now I just haven't made the time. I think that meditation is amazing. Like I will leak out of my eyes because I don't take the time to like give myself. But I kind of run for that, right? For me, when I run, I'm not on my phone. I'm not on my phone. I spend an hour running, maybe even an hour and a half without stopping, and my heart rate's like, at a great pace. I'm just like in pure bliss. I'm not talking to anybody. Sometimes I don't have music on. I'm just listening to the nature, or sometimes I have like rhythmic music or even like death metal, and I'm just like in the zone, and it's like feels amazing. So to me, it's kind of like my own meditation, but it's not truly sitting there and doing like breath work per se and like reflecting or thinking about nothing. Like I'm certainly watching where I'm going and have like, I'm aware, but no, I don't, I don't. My mom told me something fucked up, but I still think it's true to say, is like when I was a kid, I'm like, Mom, my parents are Norwegian, and growing up in Texas and Houston, I'm like, we moved from San Francisco to the Woodlands where I grew up, and I'm like, Mom, all my friends go to church on Sunday. Like, why don't we go to church? And she's like, Dennis, like God is like Santa Claus for adults. Like once you get to a certain age, you just like stop believing. You don't need any of that. And I was like, oh, okay. So like she told the same thing to my brother, and I'm like, oh. So like kind of growing up, I was never really like, she's like, you can just make anything happen that you need to do and like just take ownership and whatever. Pray if you want to, but like she just set the stage pretty early, like no need, which is that's an opinion, but yeah.
Naturally enlightened, yeah, for sure. Whatever serves you. I think there's definitely some beauty in religion, but personally, I think the without getting too far down the rabbit hole, the organized part of it can get a little precarious sometimes, where it's not really serving the purpose as much as it should be. I love that.
Sure.
Okay, 2 more quick questions here. So you have pretty nice watch collection. How did you get into that? Was that just something that you came into the money and you wanted to play with, or was that always on the radar?
To be honest, like I definitely got a watch when I was young. I think for my dad as like a gift that I thought was a gift. I'm like, wow, I got a Fossil watch in like 5th grade. I thought I was the shit. I'm like, yes, I got a Fossil watch. And then it was really because my dad wanted me to have a watch so that I knew to never be late. And I'm like, oh, so like what a terrible gift. But like it was masked as a nice gift. But I love that. And I love that watch because I was like, I was a kid. I eventually, got like a G-Shock, and I thought like these are kind of cool. I was very into skateboarding growing up. I was probably 5-6 years skateboarding, and yeah, eventually just, I got like a fake Rolex, I think when I was like 13 from some friend's dad went to like Africa or Egypt on business, and he like got me and all my skateboarding friends fake Rolexes. And I remember like wearing it to the skate park and just thought I was like so sick. And then like I ended up cracking it on the ground, and my life was ruined. I'm like, my fucking fake Rolex I paid $75 for is ruined. I was so upset. And then I was like, I'm never going to have one of these until I can buy, a real one. And then my stepdad growing up was in like the Air Force and whatever, was in the country club and golf business growing up in the Woodlands, and he had a bunch of nice Rolexes. And so he was always like letting me like wear them, even though they're like way too big for me, but just like in the house, just to like look at them. There's like solid gold, old school military edition for only Air Force specific, like that's veterans cool. Of like, whatever. But I'm like, wow, these are really like pieces of like history, and kind of just like I wouldn't say I was big into watches, but I definitely was like exposed to them and was like kind of told like appreciate them basically. And he was a pilot and had his own like little twin engine plane that he had a part ownership with some friends, and so he was very into like that culture, and so I started to like it. And then I bought my first Rolex when I sold my meme network, which is actually the one I'm wearing right here, but I bought it like probably in 5 years, 2017. And then when I sold Live Recover, I bought 2 more, and then one I bought my mom this Rolex Yachtmaster, and then I'm still kind of on the hunt, but because they're like other people are buying NFTs, and I bought a few, but I'm like, you know what? I'd rather buy watches, because most of the watches I've been buying I could get for the same price as a picture of a monkey, and I can like wear it, and then it's worth double also, and it's like got gold or steel and like metals that have more inherent value to me than like a picture on the screen. Not that I'm hating on NFTs, but just like in comparison, there's different types of things that you can invest in, and I understand those more. And so I like the history a little bit, but
yeah, I love that, man. That's beautiful. I'm right there with you. I think, and also too, kind of an ancillary point. As a male, you really only have a few ways to express yourself, right? And like your timepiece is usually one of the most explicit ways to kind kind of express yourself. So that's a really cool thing. Okay,
For
last
sure.
question for the main segment. You have a bunch of amazing tattoo work. How did you get into that? How much chair time have you done? Because you have full sleeves on your legs, correct?
Yep, I think they're called, yeah, I guess they're called leg sleeves, but yeah, I have both my
Leg
legs
sleeves,
done.
yeah, yeah. Is it all one piece, or was it just added onto, or like how did you? It's pretty intricate.
Yeah, it's one piece for both legs. I basically like had this guy I met in Austin when I was probably 18 or 19. His name's Hector Fong. He works in Austin now again. He recently moved back. But when I was 18, I was like, all I care is like tattoos every paycheck. I had like every 2 weeks I was getting a paycheck while I was working on my e-com stuff and meme stuff. But I was like, every paycheck I'm getting $200 or $300 towards a tattoo. And so I'd go get working towards my leg. But I basically started with the outline of the whole leg, and then we did the color, and then he ended up moving to to Oakland. I moved to LA, and so I was flying up there every few months just to get my other leg worked on. And then we just did both like full legs, and now I've taken a break from getting tattoos for now, but I think like if I get to, let's say my next businesses do really well, I made a kind of promise to my mom I would never do anything on my arms unless I had like basically like fuck you money, and I don't know what that I don't whatever that means, whatever fuck you money means. But if that number hits, then I'm just and hopefully by that time, if that ever happens, that I maybe won't want them anymore. That's kind of like set the goalpost out so far that like by that time I'll probably be like, maybe I'm like 50, like who's 50 trying to buy their like Corvette going through a crisis? Like I don't need that.
Get in the neck piece at 55 or something.
Yeah, I'm not going to be doing that. But yeah, so I don't know. I've always just liked tattoos, and now I've got them.
I love it. All right, cool. So let's jump. That was the main segment. It was so fascinating. I've been wanting to ask you all that stuff. Let's jump into the value add segment. This is why the people bought the ticket.
Triple Whale. Shout out Triple Whale.
Holla. So what are the hardest parts and best parts of starting and running your own business? What would you say?
I think the best parts I touched on were just like being able to kind of go at your own pace.
Yep.
But being able to be yourself on your own schedule and things like that, or working with a group of people who allow you to do that, then it's like ideal. And then like, the worst parts are probably actually the same thing, because those things can hurt you, and you don't really understand, like, to some degree, when other people put guidelines in place for you, it's not like they don't even know what damage you could do to both like the company you work for or your own company. So I think like, obviously there's a lot more upside in owning a business, but let's just say you can't work on something and give it the nurturing it needs for like 6 to 12 months, and you have to raise money, spending 6 months raising money. It's just a different level of grind. So I think, I don't know, it's hard. I think building a company is really hard. If you have a partner and a team that you can work with, and someone is really good at raising money, and someone's really good at building the product, and someone's really good at doing the business side, and you found like your tribe, and then I would say that's better. Like starting anything with a really small team is super hard, and I wouldn't advise it unless you've done it before and you kind of know, like maybe you've got a little extra money and you can buy some time to like not do anything other than this. And if so, then maybe you're in a more fortunate position than most. But
I love that. What are you most excited for in 2022? So you're really plugged into the DTC space. You obviously have a little constellation of Shopify apps. What are you most excited for there?
I think we still haven't seen like the full scope of like where the app store and just the apps are going to go. Right now, I think, like we're missing obvious things, but I don't know if they're needed. So Shopify is so big now, and I'm like, I'm excited to see where more apps are going, and that's because that's the space that I work in, right? I'm like, ooh, are there going to be like A/B price testing apps, or are there going to be live video shopping apps, or what's going to work, what's going to be cool? But I still think all the like chasing those cool things is exciting, but like focusing on the stuff that already exists and works is also not too bad. Like you guys with Triple Whale are in an exciting space, right? Like right now, it's really hard to solve for attribution and a lot of the stuff because of the iOS changes with Facebook and tracking. And so like those are things that I'm excited about, seeing how much efficiency those types of tools bring to brands that have been suffering, because it's not like Facebook doesn't work anymore. It's just that like a lot of the Facebook might not be able to optimize because of these things. And so you are sort of left spreading a wider net, which means you have to be a little bit more organized. And then Facebook will eventually catch up on the optimization stuff. They're just still catching up on the reporting side. So I think, I am excited for those things to kind of get, not, I wouldn't say back to normal, but get to a little bit of a healthier place. And then, still excited to see like how do NFTs actually play into Shopify and things like that. I'd also love to see Shopify get a little more heavy on digital goods. And I don't mean NFTs. I just mean like, I would love to be able to gift a free ebook if you buy my product, or call it an upsell of a free ebook download through the Shopify platform, right? They have a wide open opportunity to sort of compete with Gumroad and just kill Gumroad. I mean, Gumroad's an amazing product, but they could buy Gumroad easily. They could release a product that's comparable for cheaper. 100%. And so I don't know, I'm excited to see, where that stuff goes. And, there's a lot of new stuff, but, Shopify's opening up more extensions to their checkout, which I'm excited about for Order Bump, for other apps that do things in the checkout.
Native. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, just all this new Shopify checkout like expansion, I think is going to be really good for merchants and just customization stuff. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, that's a super fascinating outlook. What do you think in the next 3 to 5 years? Is it going to be an era of incumbents, or is it going to be an era of startups?
I mean, we're seeing like right now what's happening is like, it's like, I think there's just like a cycle where it's like, oh, let's unbundle everything. And then it's time to like, oh, wait, no, it's time to bundle everything back up. And then it's like, oh no, the future is unbundling. So like, I think right now we've been still in this kind of like unbundling phase, but we're starting to see it become back of this bundling up phase where, at least in the ecosystem of Shopify, I'm hearing more and more about people who are saying, hey, we just bought 10 apps, or like even myself, my goal was to, use my fake VC, kind of like my own money, not like lots of money, but say for, acquiring 5 apps, we spend $1 million total or something. That's for me, like that's 5 apps, but like other people are going to raise $10 million to go buy 10 apps or 5 apps or whatever. And so, or more money. And so I'm like, damn, now we're at that point where I think there's going to be a lot more of this sort of bundling up, opposed to just like more startups. And then it's going to just be them eating those people and using their efficiencies behind the scenes to kind of like kill all the competition. But we'll see.
Yeah, I'm much of that same ilk as well, where because you're seeing a lot of like the Theracios and people that are either Amazon roll-ups or Shopify store roll-ups now.
Open store, like
kind of,
yeah,
exactly. Where and you're also seeing it all in the agency side, where if you have kind of like a smaller agency, a lot of these bigger agencies are just gobbling up these kind of smaller books essentially to basically pad their balance sheet. I guess I don't know, really understand.
Keep growing. Yeah, you got to keep growing.
Exactly, right? Like just like, hey, we'll pay. The way I see it is almost like an acquisition cost, right? They're basically, those are marketing fees that they're paying to acquire these customers, and then hopefully it nets out and they don't churn and that kind of stuff. But yeah, that's really fascinating. I love that. What else do we got here? When you were kind of bumping up against other businesses, was there any glaring mistakes or anything that jumped out at you that you wouldn't do next time, or that you saw in the moment where you're like, oh, that's going to be a real big matzo ball hanging out there? That's a pretty fatal misstep.
Matzo ball. Love that. I think at least from our mistakes was like, we shouldn't have waited so long to hire some people. And I think that like raising money is hard. So unless you're good at raising money or have someone who is, go do it. But we got burnt out early in our business because we weren't reinvested. We were really close to our minimal profits, right? Because we were just like, oh shit, we're making money. We should have some money in the bank and should be prepared to spend like whatever on ads and this and that. And like realistically, we should have just invested everything into the team, had very little in the bank at any time, and just kind of like focused on growing faster. I think that's probably like the main thing.
I love that. Yeah. Quick growth, and then kind of validate the thesis or falsify it quickly so you can pivot. I think that's,
well, I mean, even being profitable, if you're really profitable when like your first or second year in business, the question is almost like, why? Like, I know at the end of the day, like you're trying to grow the business. Like at the end of the day, you're going to end up paying taxes on that profit anyway. So if you don't really want that money and you're just, it's like if your business made a lot of money, it's kind of like, unless you need that money for yourself right now for some life event, which if so, that's fine. But if you don't, should have probably spent that on like more growth or some new tests or something. I don't know.
Section 179, go get you a car or something. No, I'm totally with you on that, though. There is a certain aspect of, and it's kind of odd, a small digression, but it's so weird, the tax treatment of W-2 income versus business income, where it's so unique, where those W-2 taxes, man, you're going to pay money on that. And to your point, like, unless you need access to financial instruments, dude, business income is the way to go, where you can ratchet that tax liability down by spending your money versus W-2, you're going to pay what you're going to pay. It just kind of is what it is. But I love that, man. Okay, last one in the value add segment. Tell me a little bit about Fake VC. One, your branding, sensational. It's phenomenal. I mean, absolute first rate. And then secondly, what was the story behind the piece you got? I mean, it is a stunning piece of jewelry. And I'm guessing it's real, correct?
For sure real. I don't know how much.
Real.
Yeah, I mean, so
gorgeous,
I'll show you. I think it's hilarious. I got one for live recover too, but amazing. Okay, so this is it's like a little. It's just our logo, but I thought it was hilarious.
With diamonds for everybody that are listening.
Yeah, it's like a little emoji of like a character. But anyway, so this I see on Twitter, and not that I have like any kind of feeling towards it. I just think it's kind of funny that everyone seems to be a VC, and so like I don't know what that means. That I see someone who's like 18. That's like a VC, and I'm like, oh, okay. I mean, I believe you, but I don't know really what that means. And so since it became so popular, everyone's like a VC or a VC scout. I wanted to start a company where anyone, and I will do this. I've just been lazy because I've been focused on other stuff. But if anybody wants to build this, please hit me up. I will pay you. But Fake VC will eventually be a place where anyone can come pay $9 a month to be a VC. And so you'll be able to be a VC for $9 a month, and anyone that doesn't believe you, you'll have a page on our team page for $9 a month that says that you're a limited partner in Fake VC, and you have a picture, and you can put it on your LinkedIn. And out of it, you get nothing out of it except for access to our investor updates. But the investor updates are just me and like how my companies are doing, which I'll probably share on Twitter. But that will be something that you get, and that's it. That's all. But so the name was really just to kind of like be a parody and a meme about like, I don't have a college degree. I dropped out of college, so I have no like accolades on paper. But as someone who's also using their own money, I'm not going after big deals that I want to buy Shopify apps that will be like, a 60, 50, $80 million, whatever valuated business. No, like we're going after companies that are like, doing 25K a month in MRR, maybe a little bit less if you have a smaller business that's niche, that's just making money. But not trying to spend money on big quote VC ideas, just like companies that will cash flow and that are relatively sustainable. And so that was sort of the thought. But eventually when we drop the sort of way where you can pay to upload and be a VC, and then that's going to that'll be my fun project that I'll be super excited about.
There has to be some sort of NFT angle to that as well.
I was thinking about that, but then it might be too expensive.
Card.
Maybe that's a better play.
Some economics where, because you shouldn't be an LP right off the bat for $9. You should charge people to be an LP. You can just be the VC, but if you want to be an LP, then you have your NFT card. Because I mean, LP, you're running the show essentially, or pretty much. You know what I mean?
All you get is a photo. You don't get to do anything. No one does except for me.
No. I'm saying in stereotypically,
in
like
theory,
if you're a limited
paper,
partner in a VC, like you're throwing weight around versus
right. So now it's like you can pay a little more or less to be an associate versus an LP or like GP in the company. Right. All the GPs we have honorary GPs. So it's like Mark Zuckerberg, Elon Musk, and Jeff Bezos for now.
That's quite the list there. That's amazing. Oh, Dennis, I had no doubt you would make it to the rapid fire round. With that hair, how wouldn't you? Okay, cool. So now we're going to get into some fun questions. Okay.
Let's do it.
You ready?
Yes.
Okay. Shopify App Store. Overrated, underrated?
Underrated.
I love it. G-Wagons. Overrated, underrated?
Overrated.
Ooh, really? And this is from somebody that has an very nice one. Beautiful color scheme. I love it. SMS marketing. Overrated, underrated?
Underrated.
Ooh, I love it. Austin. Underrated, overrated?
Underrated for sure.
Ooh, all right. Starting, selling a business. Overrated, underrated?
Starting to sell one?
I'm starting and selling.
Oh, definitely
like
underrated. Yeah, I mean it's
underrated.
Yeah.
Love it. Crypto. Overrated, underrated?
Crypto underrated, but NFTs overrated.
I love it. I like the distinction. Patek Philippe. I can never say it right. Patek Philippe.
Patek Philippe?
Yeah. Watches, overrated, underrated.
I don't have one and personally don't like deserve to have one yet, so I'm gonna say they're underrated.
Underrated. I love it. What gave you more gray hair, live recover or exposely?
Probably live recover.
Okay. Bigger nut though too, so the gray hair was worth it.
Yeah, for sure.
LA Galaxy or Austin FC?
I'm gonna go Austin FC just because it's
Hey,
local,
homer pick. All right. You're a booster or something, right? Or like a mini sponsor or something there?
but no, just
No, you
yeah,
just went to
a,
the stadium?
yeah.
Yeah, I love it. It's a nice stadium. What's your favorite watch that you own or favorite watch that you want to own?
Right now, the favorite watch that I own is this Audemars Piguet Royal Oak, but I'd like to get this other Royal Oak chronograph and maybe another Rolex, and then I'm probably not going to buy any watches for quite a while. I think I have enough.
I love it. Your favorite artist? I remember you had that really incredible piece where it was actually a painting and then almost like an interactive piece where he or she, I can't forget, but burned it in front of you, right?
Oh yeah, it's Sage Barnes. He didn't burn it in front of me, but he did burn it and like film it. I actually think Sage Barnes might be like my favorite out of the ones that I have at my house. Yeah, I like Sage Barnes. He's cool.
It's a really cool, interesting piece. Your favorite in-person marketing event?
I'm not really good. I'm gonna say Geek Out because it's the only one that I've been to.
You going to Dubai in February?
I don't think I am, but if one of my buddies in town was like a co-founder of it, and he's going, and he's trying to get me to go, so I might go, but as of right now, no.
Okay, it should be good.
Are you going?
Yeah, we're sponsoring the event.
Oh, what?
Yeah, of course. Yeah,
that's nice.
Everywhere, baby. Yeah, Shack Attack. He's a good dude. Him and James are good dude. Good peoples. Favorite place to travel to and why?
I really like going to New York just because it's a good taste for like a weekend or a couple days or even a week or two. But, I like being like in the city for like that small amount of time. Then the rest of the time I kind of just want to be left alone and have some space. So I think New York is great. Yeah, probably my favorite place to visit.
Exactly. Same here. I love the fire, but I'll burn up if I stay there too long because I can't turn off. And it's just wonderful energy there. Love me some NYC.
Yes,
favorite
sir.
way to spend your time?
I'm going to say probably like working or running. I really I feel really good when I run and really, really good after I run. And, I really enjoy working. To me, it's almost like a sport. And so I want to get better and I try to learn. I think I know a little bit about a lot. And then there's like a few things that I know a lot about, but I like to be able to hopefully keep up and not be, I'm not obviously an expertise in like health or bio, anything outside of like business or software type of entrepreneurship and e-commerce, whatever. But in my sort of horizontal view, I want to kind of know a little bit about a lot. So I think I have a lot of enjoyment in like trying to learn more.
How exciting. I love it. Yeah, lifelong learner, beginner's mind. It's the way to go. Favorite follow on Twitter?
Favorite follow on Twitter is probably Nikita Bear. And
has to be.
He's just a really funny guy. Right? Yeah, he's just really funny, and he's really funny in real life too. I got to meet him. He came to Austin a couple months ago, and yeah, just a funny guy. And I enjoy that he's like a shit poster who sold his company to Facebook and continued shit posting, and he's also like really bright. So
it's a perfect dichotomy. I love it. Okay, last question, and then we'll wrap up. If you could have dinner with 3 people, dead or alive, fictional or non-fictional, who would it be? This is a 4-person table. You're all eating at the same time.
I'd probably pick Steve Jobs,
love it,
Walt Disney, and Christopher Columbus.
That is quite a unique mix. I love that one. You got an explorer, and then you have 2 visionaries. Incredible. Dennis, you absolutely smashed this. Your reputation preceded you. Were so much fun. So many eloquent responses. Do you want to plug anything? You want to talk about Order Bump, Fake VC? The time's yours, my friend.
If you're using Shopify, make sure you try Triple Whale for your analytics and securing your pixel data. And then, if you want to do upsells with Order Bump, we'd love to have you test our app for in checkout or post purchase upsells. But aside from that, nothing I really want to plug.
Perfect. You can follow Dennis on the Bird app at is it D Hegstad or is it Dennis?
It's just Dennis, right? DennisHegstad, Dennis Hegstad. Yep.
Super, super fun feed. He also has a fun Instagram feed if you want to get some more visuals there. And then if you want to try and keep up with him, follow him on Strava. But Dennis, man, this has been incredible. I really appreciate it. We'll have to put a big dinner or something together in Austin. We can do this in person next time. But, dude, super mucho appreciate your time. Thank you so much. Keep crushing it, spreading all the light and the awesomeness. And we'll see you on the flip.
Yep, DTC barbecue coming soon.
Oh, coming soon. Absolutely. All right, folks, that's all we got for you. If you do want to get more involved in Triple Whale, go to trytriplewhale.com to sign up. We are also on the Bird app at Try Triple Whale, and then we have an amazing newsletter that goes out every Tuesday, Thursday. You can subscribe to that right on our Twitter profile at Try Triple Whale. Dennis, again, thank you so much. Everybody else, we'll see you on the flip. Bye-bye.
Thank you. See ya.